And this is a video for the Mad River Valley Localvore project. Today we're going to make basic sauerkraut using lacto fermentation, and we'll just show you how to do the process of getting the cabbage ready to put together into jars, and then you can ferment it for about a week and then it's ready to eat. So there's three basic ingredients in sauerkraut. You've got cabbage. This is green cabbage, but you can also make it with red cabbage or mix different kinds of cabbages together. We've got sea salt, or any kind of basic kosher salt, anything that's not iodized salt. And then the other ingredient that I like to put in is caraway seeds, but that's totally optional. You can also just do a plain sauerkraut that's just cabbage and salt. So the first step is to have a big bowl that you can use to mix all your cabbage in. And you want to chop it up pretty fine. You can also use a grater if you want to have really small pieces of sauerkraut, but you just want to make really thin slices. And think about, the size that you'd be able to eat when you put it in your mouth. So I usually chop it in half. And this recipe that we're going to make today is just one cabbage worth, but it's obviously very adaptable to whatever amount you have. So now that we've got our cabbage in there, we're going to add salt, add the sea salt. And the general rule of thumb is for every 5 pounds of cabbage, you want about 3 tablespoons of salt. Or if you're doing a smaller amount, I think it's about 4 cups of shredded cabbage is 1 tablespoon. So it's not rocket science, though. You can just be approximate. So I would say this is probably less than 5 pounds. I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons and just mix it all together. So what you want to do is get that salt evenly distributed, and what the salt does is bring out the liquid from inside the cabbage. You're trying to get the liquid out. So now that the salt's mixed in, what I'm going to do is just leave this for a few minutes, let it sort of start to release the liquid, and then after I let it sit, I'm just going to massage it with my hands, because you're trying to break down the fibers in the cabbage, and that's what's going to make the sauerkraut more soft and help it release the juice. So we're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes and then come back and massage it some more. The cabbage sit for about 10 minutes. You can see that the surface of it is getting very kind of shiny and wet looking. And then I've just taken a few more minutes of really massaging the cabbage to try and get the liquid out. And you can see the volume of the cabbage has reduced probably by half. And there's a pool of liquid down here in the bottom of the bowl that's all come out. And that's what we're looking for, because when we put this in the jar, we want to be able to get as much of the air out as possible and have it fill up with liquid to cover. And there are a lot of different ways you can, massage it with your hands. Some people like to use a French rolling pin, and you can just pound it over and over again. But I think it's pretty good. I mean, part of it depends on how crunchy you want your sauerkraut. If you want to have it really crunchy, you massage it less, and if you want it really soft, then you can spend more time doing it. But I think this is pretty much ready to go and put it in the jar. I just use a regular 1 quart wide mouth mason jar. And before I do that, I'm going to add a few caraway seeds, because I like to have those mixed in. Some people put in dill seeds or any other flavoring. The nice thing about sauerkraut is it's very adaptable. So you can make a sauerkraut with radishes. You could mix carrots in if you wanted, different other root vegetables, beets even. So now that I just mixed those in, I'm going to pack it into the jar. And this is where the rolling pin can really come in handy, because you can use this to really pack it in. Like I said, you're trying to get all the air out of it so that it's one solid mass of kraut. And you'd be amazed. I mean, probably that one whole huge cabbage is going to fit in this one jar once we're done with it. Pretty much anyway. Helps if you add the cabbage a little bit at a time, because then you can pound down in sections. It makes it easier to get the air out. You want to leave about an inch of airspace at the top of the jar. You can see now that there's actual liquid at the top, which is exactly what we want. We don't want any of the cabbage to be sticking up above the liquid. And that's almost an inch showing, so that's just what we want. And then you want to be able to keep a weight on it to press the cabbage down. And so what I use is I take a smaller mason jar, fill it with water so it's kind of heavy, and you can set it on top there so that it brings the edge of the liquid up, and that'll keep it covered. And then I just put it on a small dish, because you're going to leave this in your kitchen on the counter at room temperature for about a week. And so during that time, this will be fermenting, bubbles will be coming out, and some of this liquid may spill out over. So you want to put it on a little plate. But I just put it there on the edge of my counter for about 5 days, and then test it and see how sour it gets. Like right now it just tastes like salty cabbage, but in another couple days you'll really get that sauerkraut taste. And once it's sour enough and it's the way you like it, then you can take this off, put a mason jar lid on, and just put it in the refrigerator. And the nice thing about this is you can keep it in the refrigerator for a really long time. This is some sauerkraut that I made 2 falls ago, so this is about 18 months ago. It's still well preserved, and I'm still eating stuff that I had preserved from my garden more than a year ago. So this is what it will look like when it's done. You can see it's got a little change in color from the raw, but pretty much just exactly the same. So this can just sit in your refrigerator until you're ready to eat it. And that's all the process. If you're interested in learning more about fermentation and sauerkraut in particular, there's 2 books that I'd recommend. One is called Full Moon Feast, and it's by Jessica Prentice, and the other is Wild Fermentation by Sander Katz. And both of these have recipes in them and lots of other tips for how to work with fermented food. So you also can see recipes on our website, which is www.vermontlocalvore.org. We also do some workshops on fermentation and other learning how to use local food topics. So you should check it out.